So for my first book of the semester, I read The Smartest Kids in the World and How They Got That Way by Amanda Ripley, who is a reporter who decided to look into a few of the lives of students that studied abroad during their educational career from the United States to one of the other areas that we're going to be talking about. So the three countries that the book mainly focuses on is obviously the United States, and then Finland and Korea, South Korea specifically. And then Poland is touched on a little bit, but it's mostly about, it's going to the life of this character named Tom, but it mostly focuses on how economic systems play with academics, but it's a very light area in the book. So mostly we're going to be focusing on Finland and South Korea. So the first character that Ripley follows is Kim from Oklahoma. While she was there, she didn't feel like she was being intellectually challenged enough by the school that she was already in. So what she wanted to do was take hold of her education and raise money so that she could go to Finland. And so she looked for scholarships. She went to different seminars to learn more information. She's just a brilliant kid she wanted to learn more. She wanted to be better. So reasons that she went to Finland and what she eventually learned from her year in Finland was that it is one of the best school systems in the world according to the PISA test, which is one big creative comprehensive test that's taken all around the world. And while she was there, she learned that students were taught to think critically, and the teachers in the classroom were more involved with their kids and less on technology and other factors. But they weren't necessarily dictators in the classroom. They let students learn what they wanted to learn, let them use creativity, and facilitated discussions rather than leading kids on a narrow path where they couldn't branch out and do what they wanted and adventure with their own intrinsic motivation. The school system in general is made up with very little homework, low parental involvement, and the government and parents, students, they all have the respect for the profession of teaching, which I think is very important, and not necessarily true here in the US. So, for the kids, how they're looked at is there's no need to test the students year after year. Collaboration was normal and trust was high. So students are given trust so that they feel like they can go out and learn what they want to learn, and their parents and the government and the teachers allow them to do that, and the trust there gives them enough motivation to do what they want. And standardized testing also isn't a main focus of their education system. Not every student is tested, and the curriculum isn't based off of what they want to happen in those PISA tests, because everything is critical thinking and creativity and how one would actually work in the world rather than just for a test that you would take once in your life. And also, teaching is looked at very differently because the teachers must get a master's degree in the subjects that they want to be teaching. So Ripley kind of compares this to the US and how we view teaching as kind of a backup plan and a backup degree for people who don't know what they want to do with their lives. So this quote says that some argue that a teacher who struggled in school is actually a better teacher because the teacher could relate to students who were failing. It was perverse logic. Would a teacher who had botched several surgeries be a ideal medical school professor? So it just makes sense that maybe if you want to educate people, you have to have the most educated people there to lead them. And then it goes into South Korea from the viewpoint of Eric. And then South Korea scores very highly on the PISA test, but it comes at a cost because the kids in South Korea aren't really given freedom to be kids and do their own thing. The system is driven by testing, and the Korean teenagers spend more time studying than our kids from the US spent a week. There's actually a studying curfew that was passed by the government there just because kids are so stressed out that they couldn't let them do that anymore. And when Eric was in those school systems, he was surprised by all the kids sleeping in class because at school, their parents are pushing them so much to study all the time. And that's what's driving a lot of kids crazy in Korea, and that's what's making them so stressed out all the time. But the one plus that Ripley talks about was motivation in all of Korea's schools was very, very high because those kids wanted to succeed just because that's the way the culture works there. And then to wrap up, I just wanted to use one quote that kind of pulls everything in the book together. One thing was clear. To give our kids the kind of education they deserved, we had to first agree that rigor mattered most of all, that schools existed to help kids learn to think, to work hard, and yes, to fail. That was a core consensus that made everything else possible.